In the year 1480, the unthinkable happened. The mighty Ottoman Turks, led by Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, stormed the Italian city of Otranto. Out of 22,000 inhabitants, over 12,000 were slaughtered in a single brutal siege. Priests were executed without mercy. The Archbishop of Otranto was sawed in half. Today, a hill still bears the name Martyrs' Hill, commemorating those who chose death over conversion to Islam. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. Far across the sea, in Spain, Queen Isabella and King Fernando received the news with horror. If the Ottomans could strike in Italy, what was to stop them from joining forces with the Moors of Granada? What if the enemies already lurked within the gates, with dubious loyalty to the crown? The Ottomans thought they could intimidate Christendom. Instead, they emboldened Queen Isabella, who was about to enter the most important chapter of her reign. It was September 26, 1480, that the Spanish crown launched the Spanish Inquisition. The first tribunal was established in the city of Sevilla. And what's particularly striking? Its earliest targets weren't peasants or outsiders. They were the elite. Wealthy conversos, Jews who had converted to Christianity, suddenly found themselves under intense scrutiny. Alarmed by the threat, Sevilla's most influential conversos gathered at the Church of San Salvador to plan their defense. Among them were Catholic priests, magistrates, and government officials. A key figure in this secret meeting was Diego de Susan, a wealthy rabbi with a fortune estimated at over 10 million maravedis. He delivered a bold speech calling for resistance, but their plans would never see the light of day. Unhappily for them, the rabbi's own daughter revealed everything to her Christian lover. Within 24 hours, the Inquisition knew it all. To Queen Isabella, this confirmed that the conversos saw themselves as above the law. One by one, Sevilla's most powerful men were arrested. One of them was found to be hiding enough weapons to arm a small militia. The trials were swift. Some conspirators confessed and received penances, but 6 of the ringleaders were sentenced to a brutal fate: death by fire. What happened next was sheer panic. In just one day, 700 conversos rushed to confess and reconcile with the church, desperate to avoid the flames. In the summer, the Inquisition proclaimed the term of grace, announcing that during 2 months, any heretic who came forward and confessed would be pardoned and treated with mercy. Hundreds of conversos rushed in, and there were 1,500 penitents in one day alone. Soon, the inquisitors were astonished at the amount of people that secretly despised Christianity, and they expanded the institution to other cities. From the mid-13th century onward, the Kingdom of Granada had been the only remaining Muslim kingdom in the Iberian Peninsula. For roughly 225 years, Granada had survived as a tributary state to the Kingdom of Castile. This lasted until 1481, when the Muslim Emirate of Granada, under Emir Moulay Sen, attacked the city of Zahara by surprise, capturing and killing many of its inhabitants. Isabella and Fernando's response was an attack on the town of Alhama in 1482, which they conquered. This marked the beginning of a 10-year war, which would finally put an end to the 8 centuries-long Reconquista. Isabella's troops advanced little by little, capturing one town after the other. However, they also suffered defeats, like at the siege of Loja and at the Battle of Axarquia. What turned the tide considerably was that a feud started between the King of Granada, Moulay Abul Hassan, and his son Boabdil. In 1484, at the Battle of Lucena, the Spaniards captured the son of the Muslim king. Fernando struck a deal with him, releasing Boabdil under some conditions, mainly that he helped the Spaniards defeat King Abul Hassan. Divide and conquer was Fernando's strategy. Many Muslim fortresses in Andalusia were nearly impregnable, built atop rugged cliffs and nestled deep within the mountains. Their locations had protected them for centuries. But by the late 15th century, Spain was building something new, an army unlike any the peninsula had seen before. Dozens of bronze cannons and massive iron bombards rumbled across the land, dragged by oxen through valleys and over difficult terrain. This was Europe's first truly professional Royal Artillery Corps, a force of engineers, gunners, and logisticians all unified under direct royal command. But there was a problem: the terrain itself. The mountain roads of southern Spain were treacherous, slowing down the army's advance. So Queen Isabella made a bold decision. If the road doesn't exist, build it. She ordered teams of pioneers to carve new paths through the rock, blasting and digging their way across the mountainside to keep the war machine moving. It was during this chaotic and determined campaign that a letter arrived for the Queen from a nobleman writing on behalf of a foreign sailor named Cristoforo Colombo, or Christopher Columbus. He proposed a daring voyage to reach the Indies by sailing west, and claimed he needed only 3 or 4 small caravels. But Isabella was preoccupied. She was at war, about to give birth to her 5th child, the future Catherine of Aragon, who would one day become the first wife of Henry VIII of England. She responded, "Send Columbus to Cordoba." Soon after, one by one, Moorish strongholds fell, shattered by Spanish cannon fire, their ancient walls no match for the firepower. But then, in 1486, a new threat emerged. Alarmed by the rapid Christian advance, Muslim powers across the Islamic world took notice. The Sultan of Egypt, seeing the fall of Granada as a blow to the Islamic West, rallied allies and sent a powerful force from North Africa to the south of Spain. The summer of 1487, the fate of the war came down to one city, Malaga. Malaga wasn't just another fortress, it was the second most important city in the Muslim kingdom. Perched on cliffs and protected by the sea, Malaga had resisted all invaders for centuries, but it had never faced the full weight of the Spanish artillery machine. In May 1487, Fernando arrived with a massive force, 20,000 infantry, thousands of cavalry, and a terrifying train of cannons. The Spanish army surrounded the city, cutting off food, water, and escape. Then, the bombardment began. For weeks, cannonballs smashed into Malaga's ancient walls. Day and night, the thunder of gunpowder echoed across the hills, but the city refused to fall. Fernando's army suffered too. Some even questioned whether Malaga could ever be taken. Inside Malaga, the situation grew desperate. In July, the final blow came. Spanish cannons breached the outer walls. Moorish resistance collapsed into chaos. On August 18th, after more than 3 brutal months of siege, Malaga surrendered, but there would be no mercy. Unlike other cities, Malaga had refused every offer of surrender, and so, Fernando made an example of it. The entire population was enslaved. Some were executed, others were sold in markets across Iberia. It was a message to Granada and the Islamic world: the end was coming. Following the conquest of Malaga, 752 Christian slaves were freed, some of which had been held captive for over 40 years. In the spring of 1489, the Catholic monarchs set their sights on Baza. For more than 6 months, Baza endured fire, hunger, and fear. On December 4th, 1489, the city of Baza fell. Fernando, advised by Isabella this time, offered generous terms. The citizens would be spared. No massacres, no enslavement. With Baza gone, only Almeria and the capital Granada remained. In late December 1489, Almeria surrendered without a fight. The citizens handed over the keys. By the late 1480s, Queen Isabella had given everything to finish the war, including her own crown jewels, pawned to fund the war. The Catholic monarchs had one final enemy, Granada. But just as the Spanish prepared for their final assault, a message arrived, not from Granada, but from Egypt. The Sultan of Egypt had spoken. If the Christians did not cease their war against the Muslims in Spain, he would unleash his wrath on the Holy Land. All Christian pilgrims in Palestine, he threatened, would be put to the sword, their churches destroyed. It was a chilling threat, but Isabella and Fernando did not flinch. With victory in sight, they resolved. The war would end, and it would end now. Word of the final crusade spread beyond Spain. Knights and volunteers from across Europe began to arrive, from Italy, France, Germany, drawn by the promise of glory and the chance to be part of the war that would end Muslim rule in Iberia once and for all. By 1491, Granada was circled. Isabella and Fernando had brought their entire kingdom to bear. Tens of thousands of troops, dozens of cannons, engineers, pioneers, priests, and chroniclers. In the spring of 1491, the Spanish army built an entire city of war outside Granada's walls. They called it Santa Fe. It had streets, churches, bakeries, even a palace for the queen. It sent one message: we are not leaving. For months, the cannons roared, the earth shook. The Muslim forces resisted bravely, launching raids, burning supplies, even poisoning water sources. But it was hopeless. By winter, famine took over the city. Horses were eaten. People cried in the streets. Secret negotiations began. The Muslims wanted protection for their homes, their mosques, and their lives. Isabella agreed. The city would surrender peacefully. On January 2nd, 1492, the Muslims surrendered and handed over the keys of Granada to Fernando and Isabella. And with that, the 800-year Reconquista was over. The fall of Granada marked the beginning of the Spanish Golden Age and the rise of the largest empire that had existed up until then. At its peak, it covered over 13 million square kilometers. The Conquest of Granada granted Isabella and Fernando the title of the Catholic monarchs by the Pope.